Clock, and we'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone. And I see that all trustees are present. That takes us to item 2.5, recognitions. Dr. Beebe?
Yes, we have a special tradition here where we recognize our faculty and staff and administrators for their longevity. And we have one person today. We have Lorraine Michalek, 15 years, nursing program support specialist, and Alan Price is here to talk a little bit about Lorraine.
Esteemed Board of Trustees, President Beebe, it really is my honor and privilege to say a few words of introduction of Lorraine Michalek, who is in the audience tonight. What can I say about Lorraine? Well, I could talk about how she and her husband Mark came to Santa Barbara 37 years ago. I could talk about how they raised two wonderful daughters. I could talk about how she worked at LaCumbre Junior High in the library, or how she spent 2 summers working in facilities for us. I could talk about her time on the Santa Barbara bowling team, where the Alley Cats continue to try to chase that perfect game. But no, my comments are not so much of what she's done, but what she does for us and what she means to us. Lorraine's official title is Nursing Program Support Specialist, and she works tirelessly in serving and supporting students in our associate degree nursing, vocational nursing, radiography technology, emergency medical technician, health information, and certified nursing assistant programs. That's her official title. Her unofficial title, and what faculty, staff, and students know her by, is Mother Lorraine. And I think it's definitely fitting, because I believe she exemplifies the best of us. She exemplifies especially 2 points that I believe represents us as an institution. We are an institution of second and third chances. Many of our students sometimes stumble, they fall, and Lorraine is the first up to help to lift them up, to help to encourage them to continue to move forward. We are a teaching institution, and teaching is really what we do best. We help people to become better tomorrow than what they are today, and Lorraine does that through her actions, her words, and occasionally a friendly shoulder to cry on when the stresses and the strains of the semester weigh heavily on our students. Today we're recognizing 15 years of service, and I joke with Lorraine. I say to Lorraine that those 15 years represents 1/3 of her career. She's given us 15 years, why not 45? Well, she'll smile and she'll shake her head no, and I have to respect that and understand that. So every day that we have Lorraine, I consider it a blessing, and I do want to use this moment, this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you, Lorraine, for all that you do for Santa Barbara City College.
Thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to work here, and I'm proud to be part of the classified staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, and congratulations, Lorraine. Okay, that brings us to item 2.6, items to be taken out of order, and we do have 2 items to be taken out of order. The first one is item 6.2, so if trustees will go down to, item 6.1, assumption of office of the governing board. And Santa Barbara City College is so blessed to administer the oath of office to returning trustees and one new trustee, Ms. Kate Parker. So I will take Angie's mic, and it'll be a little bit awkward, but you'll sort of stand your mic as tall as you can. And so if
You want us to stand?
There? Okay, good. So if trustee Croninger, Miller, Parker, Haslam, and Aboud please stand. It's like the whole board.
It is like the whole board.
Okay, so put your right hand up. I, and state your name,
Croninger,
solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the United States of California,
the Constitution of the State of California,
and that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Everyone, plus. Good job,
Nice.
guys. So Santa Barbara City College, this is your new board. It's a good thing. Okay, so this brings us to item 6.2, election of president and vice president of the Board of Trustees. And before we begin that process, I do have three public comments. And our first speaker is Ethan. I can't read your last name. Is Ethan here? And then you can tell me your last name. Oh, weird. Then we won't take Ethan. Okay, so Woodrow Davison? Woodrow? Yes, you're up.
It's okay.
Okay, so you will have 5 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'll give you a 2-minute warning, and after 30 seconds, I'll give you a 30-second warning.
Sounds good. Good evening, distinguished members of the board. My name is Woodrow Davidson. I'm currently a UCS third-year UCSB student studying a history of public policy. I am, I understand. I'm not an SBC student. I will say that. But I used to live in Isla Vista. I still live nearby, and there's a lot of SBC students who live there. And a lot of the issues that UCSB students and SBCC students face today are very similar. Tuition, housing, access to mental health resources. A lot of the problems that students face all across the country are kind of the same, and maybe some nuances here and there. But I'm talking about this because one person here, Jonathan Aboud, has been really fighting for those values and struggles from firsthand account. I think I've known Jonathan for like 3 years now, and he's someone who's always around in Isla Vista, who's always really working in terms of community development and ensuring that people living in Isla Vista, whether they are UCSB or SBCC students, have access to resources and are able to, be able to really live their lives as students with all the pressures that we face on an everyday basis. I'm just coming here to speak in support of Jonathan for the board president of SBCC trustees. I understand, maybe not everyone here will agree with me about that, but at the end of the day, we need someone who really is going to fight for students. And Jonathan was a student, he was last year, and we need someone, especially nowadays, where we don't really see young people, in positions of authority and being able to decide and help, craft these institutions, right? That, I believe the previous speaker that came up here and said, these institutions, not just because these institutions were built for us, for students, and it's important that it's an institution that's of, by, and for the students. So yeah, I'd just like to personally endorse on behalf of the students here at UCSB and a lot of my friends here to support Jonathan Aboud for board president. Thank you.
Thank you, Woodrow. Okay, our next speaker is Kristen Sue. Is she here? Yes.
Hello, members of the board.
Do you want to tilt it down?
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So good evening, members of the board. I too am here to read a statement supporting Jonathan Aboud's election for president of the SBCC Board of Trustees. So during his first term on the Board of Trustees, Jonathan has shown himself to be a hardworking and dedicated member of the board. Jonathan has been a consistent advocate for all SBCC students, but especially those from marginalized communities, including LGBTQ plus students, undocumented students, and students of color, including the Black Student Union, whose needs are all too often left out of the conversation. He has advocated to increase diversity at SBCC by supporting the policy on faculty diversity. Jonathan further amplified the political power of SBCC students in aiding in the creation of the Isla Vista Community Services District and establishing an MOU with the Secretary of State to increase SBCC voter registration. He supports making college affordable for all students. And as a group of young people, the young people I'm speaking on behalf of, we know the importance of having young people in leadership positions, especially on the SBCC Board of Trustees, which represents many young people and students. We know that as president of the Board of Trustees, Jonathan will continue to be a powerful, focused advocate for young people and all SBCC students. We're excited to see Jonathan continue his tireless work to make educational equity a reality for all SBCC students as president of the Board of Trustees. So that is the end of the statement I've come here to read. However, I'd also like to add that not only is the community college built for just students, but it's built for all stakeholders, including community members, including faculty members, including staff, including anyone who works here at this college. And I think that Jonathan has been a great advocate for all of these groups and all of these stakeholders. And we need someone sincere and someone genuine and someone passionate to lead this board. And we wholeheartedly believe that is Jonathan Aboud. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Our next speaker is Ruth Morales.
All right, here I go again. Hi. Welcome, Trustee Parker. I look forward to working with you to help make this institution a better place. I'm Ruth Morales. I am faculty here, relatively new here at SBCC. You're stepping in during difficult times. I assure you, however, that you are joining a community full of committed and caring individuals, so welcome. Okay. I'm speaking here as an individual and not as a senator. Okay. Eve Ewing, a sociologist, recently wrote, "Race has a way of filling space even as it remains invisible." I add to that, so do many other inequities, such as those dealing with gender and sexual orientation. Pardon me for, I'm going to speak in metaphor. What we have before us is an iceberg. It's so big, it's hard to fathom the enormity of the situation, even though it's practically a living, breathing thing staring at us in the face every single day. Okay. I agree with Rhonda McGee when she said at CPC that this one, that is institutional racism, will take a while to address. As one administrator recently put it, this is, quote, a deep societal and generational trauma, an unhealed trauma for which we all have a role in addressing and healing. Or in my words, as I said last time, it's a beast. You're not going to fix this. I'm not going to fix this. All we can do is chip away at it. We have an opportunity to plant the seeds for a cultural shift on this campus, that on the face of it, it seems so subtle and insignificant, but when we look at the big picture, we recognize that it's actually a change of course. I don't have a silver bullet. Like I tell my students, I'm not here to hand out solutions. I come with tools. Tools such as a willingness to actively seek out barriers, at least on this stage, to actively seek out barriers to student success, purposely viewing the system through a lens that considers the opportunities available to our students, faculty, and staff, and how policy impacts, imposes, removes these barriers to success. Trustee Nielsen asked for measurables at the last board meeting. For empirical evidence of injustices to deal with. While I admire that and I encourage that line of inquiry, those are the low-hanging fruit. The hard work pertains to the system, the iceberg. Part of the necessary cultural shift can happen at this dais. You're about to vote on who is to become the next president of this body and vice president, I believe. We can't afford to have a vacuum of leadership at any level, and we definitely can't afford to have someone at the helm who does more harm than good. Okay. We need leadership with the willingness to listen. Okay. I struggled. I'm incredibly uncomfortable right now, but I struggled to come to this. I really did. I didn't think I would. In fact, yesterday I told a few people that I would not. But after I said that, it was tearing at me. It was gnawing at my throat, and it was really tugging at my heart, and that's why I'm here right now. I am incredibly uncomfortable, and I am nervous, but these things right here, they need to be said. Okay. We need leadership with the willingness to listen, a willingness to be open and uncomfortable.
2 minutes.
Like I am right now. Okay, I'm going to skip a few things. We need healing and reconciliatory work at hand between the board and the administration, students, faculty, and staff, and especially the relationship with our African American community. And let's not forget the weathered pillars of shared governance. Not everyone at this table has what it takes. Trustee Gallardo, you do not have what it takes to guide us in this direction. I do not believe that you do. After witnessing you silencing the lone black female student voice, Crystal Farmer, during the end of the August 9th board meeting, where you invoked the power of the gavel to enforce a 5-minute recess, then immediately adjourned, it is clear to me, and I hope to everyone else, that you are not the person for this job. If the one student who had a seat at the table cried, literally cried, she cried out when she said, quote, "The processes aren't working for me." She said this 2 times. She was not listened to or followed up with. Where does that leave those who can't even make it to the table? Okay. On top of this, you use this platform to deliver one-sided anti-ethnic studies rhetoric that no one expected because, mind you, it was not on the agenda. And therefore, no one had the opportunity to address. If the board wants to bring in these issues of the larger community into this institution, fine, but there are procedural channels by which to do so. I'm afraid having you in charge will likely do more harm than good. I ask that you refrain yourself from throwing your name in the hat. While I'm at it,
30 seconds.
Trustee Koninger. Your statements also to the young lady, I'm going off script here, to the young lady during the gender equity meeting, when you told her, when she came up to you and said, I approached some gentlemen, some boys, and told them that, she didn't appreciate what they were saying about Dr. Ford during the Kavanaugh hearings, and you told her to not bother them, and you told her that if they're doing that, it is simply because they think of her and look at her as a sister. That is what this student is saying. If you don't agree, then we should probably ask her if that's the case or not. Then because of that, I do not believe that you are the person for this position either. I have much more to say, but that wraps it up.
Thank you, Ruth Morales. On this, the voting of the president, or did you want to do a general? Nelson? Okay, so we'll take the.
We can't, no, we can't.
This is not, he's not commenting on this. Okay, so
No, but
that.
we're not taking any more comments.
We're done, yeah. So that brings us to item 6.2.
Well, that's not what you stated on what what you were going to talk about. You said you were stating a board policy.
I said I wanted to speak on leadership.
Well, that's, yeah.
Okay, so item 6.2, election of the president and the vice president of the Board of Trustees. So we will take nominations either from individual trustees or from other trustees. After we take all nominations, then we will take a vote on each one or one. Okay, so are there any nominations from the floor, either self-nominations or from trustees? Yes, Trustee Parker.
I'd be happy to nominate Jonathan Abood as the next president. Thank you.
Trustee Haslund?
A lot of enthusiasm. That's terrific. I nominate Robert Miller.
Okay, so we have 2 nominations on the table. Is there any more? Trustee Nielsen?
Nominate Veronica for president.
Oh, thank you, Trustee Nielsen. So yes, we do have the ability to succeed ourselves for 2 years. I think working for Angie and Palmina has just been lovely. I think this is something that we've rotated, and I think it's worked well for us. And while Dr. Beebe and Palmina's, they've all gotten used to the elementary lunch schedule. It's been great. But I will I will yield to my trustees for this time, Trustee Nielsen, but thank you. I appreciate it. So we have 2 nominations on the table. We have Trustee Abboud, and then we have Trustee Miller. So we'll take the first motion. So is there a motion to have Trustee Abboud become president of the board?
I think we just take a vote.
Just take a vote. I think a vote.
You guys don't want to take him separately?
No, I mean,
Okay.
just have a raise of.
All right, so then we will roll call, Angie, so it can make it easier. We don't really have any, you want to speak on your nomination? Yes, of course.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for the...
You're turning your mic.
So thank you, everybody, for the support. It means so much to me. I've been asked to run now for 2 years. Originally, I thought that I wanted to do this position because I had strong ideas that I ran on, and let's push those. But that's not really the case anymore because I am overwhelmed by all the support that people have personally reached out to me to run for this position. I originally wasn't even thinking necessarily to do it this year. I had, everyone knows I ran and lost the position last year. But I'm interested in doing this because I want to lend my skills as a community organizer, use the relationships that I've built with so many of you on campus and off campus, and share my perspective as both someone who's served on a board for 4 years, but also someone who's been in an activist role, lobbying a board for many years before that, 4 years also. To start rebuilding the trust and the relationship and the respect between this board and the college, because I think it's broken, and I think we can't succeed if we have a broken trust. And I think I am uniquely positioned to be doing that work, and we as a board cannot be successful, we will not be successful without the trust of those who are here daily, the students and the faculty and the staff. We've had a challenging year, we all know that. It started off with natural disaster, and then it continued with more interpersonal and racism disaster and sexism being rampant on campus. And I think that it's a challenge, but challenges are opportunities, and I think that, like I said, I'm uniquely positioned to address that, make sure that that challenge is met and fully realize the opportunity we have on hand, because I'm a firm believer in consensus building and compromise and collaboration. I think those are the tenets of government and the tenets of politics, and I think we can't move forward in a way where we are not hearing the people who are coming to these meetings time after time, asking us to listen. So my philosophy, and this is more to the board, but also to the public, as being board president, is going to be to keep those who are closest to the pain, closest to the power. This is not an original line I made up. It's something I read. But I deeply believe in it. And this board and this president position has a great deal of power. And it's my intention that we use that power to be proactive and using it to the benefit of those most marginalized and hurt on this campus and in this community. We have a lot of opportunities to usually do that. We have routine agenda items that come up, but we can do more than the routine. I think we can do much more than the routine in terms of bringing people in, organizing on the ground with the people who we represent, making sure we solicit adequate input from the public and from the people at this college to provide the board direction of how to move forward. Because we give Anthony direction of how to act as superintendent, but we need you to give us the direction, and we need to be soliciting your input and not cutting you off at 4 p.m. to turn in your public comment slips, for example. So I may not agree with everything. I may not agree with everything the board, but I agree with a lot of the board. But my job as president is to make sure that each board member's voice is heard, but also each of your voices are heard in the decisions we're making as a board. So thank you. I hope you consider my election as president.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Abboud. So we'll take this like we do when we vote for the CCCT board. So when Angie calls your name, you'll simply just state the trustee that you are voting for. Is that clear? So you'll either say Trustee Abboud or you'll say Trustee Miller.
Okay, Trustee Gallardo.
Trustee Miller?
Trustee Abboud.
Trustee Abboud.
Right here.
Yeah. Trustee Abboud.
Trustee Hasland.
Robert Miller.
Trustee Parker.
Trustee Abboud.
Trustee Miller.
Trustee Miller.
Trustee Carninger.
Trustee Miller.
Trustee Nielsen.
Trustee Miller.
Student Trustee Igbechi.
On behalf of the students, we choose Trustee Abboud.
Okay, so your next Board of Trustees president is Trustee Miller. Congratulations, Trustee Miller. So Trustee Miller, you will now hold the election for the Vice President of the Board, and you will go up to the top of the agenda to take your stack of public comments. We do have more than the 20 minutes allowed for any given topic. So one option that we talked about was a 2-minute for each speaker so they can each stay within the 20 minutes and allow everyone to speak. But that will be at your discretion, and it's here. These have been taken, and so we can pass these over to Angie. And I will switch seats with you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank the board for honoring me with this position. It was not something that I was seeking, but I'm prepared to serve. And I've been here 8-9 months. I forget the exact amount, but I think I joined the board the 1st of March. And not really knowing completely what I was getting into. When people in Goleta first approached me about filling a vacancy on the board, I was interested. It sounded interesting, but it was not something that I had ever done before. But it quickly became, I think, a passion of mine. This school is such an exceptional place. It has such exceptional people. And every single member of this board is an exceptional person that I have enjoyed getting to know. I've enjoyed getting to know President Beebe. Found him to be an exceptional leader. So I'm really, I'm humbled and honored with this being elected to be the president of the board. And I guess now I'll get to the task of trying to understand the agenda and how to run it. So let me ask. Our first item on the agenda the additional public comments or the election of the vice president?
The election of the vice president, yeah.
Okay, so I would then invite nominations for vice president. Trustee Croninger.
Nominate Peter Haslam.
Okay. Any other nominations?
What do you think, Peter? You know, if you find it helpful, I know that when I took over for Marcia, and then Trustee Aboud were working together, and I were working together, I was often also leaning back. So we had a couple meetings where it was all three of us because we had to sort of lean on just things that Marcia had been dealing with or taking care of. And so if it's helpful to you, I can't serve in that capacity. But I think, you know, if Trustee Haslam would like to do that as well, I mean, I think that we all communicate well, but we did end up having a little triad in the beginning with like Jonathan, myself, and Marcia. And then you're at Brown Act. You can't talk to anybody else. It got kind of tricky, and we kind of just stopped that. And then, so it just really, it depends on what you feel you'll need. We're all certainly available, and we hash things out really here at this table. So I don't know, Trustee Haslam, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't mind serving. I haven't done that job for a long time, yeah. So that's fine with me. I really do have the view that, and it differs a little bit with what Jonathan was saying, that the reference to the president of this board, a 7-member plus a student leader, is not the same as in the world of routine politics where there's a lot of political power associated with it. Mm-hmm. I adopt the servant mode of leadership here, that your job, Robert, is to make sure that everybody on the dais has an equal chance at expressing him or herself and getting the debate to the point where it remains civil and that we can disagree with each other, and then we take a vote, and we do so in an orderly fashion. And in addition to that, your job is to represent us, this board. You are a servant of this collective entity to the rest of the community, to not only the campus community, but to the larger community. And you're going to be called on from time to time to say stuff to the Santa Barbara community. And it's not just a reflection of what you think. It's a reflection of what we think. It is a collective entity here where the actual political power is. And we select you to represent us in that respect. I hope that makes...
So with that, would you gladly accept the nomination?
Sure.
And I will second that nomination.
I think Kenny had his hand up.
Kenny?
I don't know if I have the power to nominate someone. Do I?
I don't know. I think you do.
I think he does.
Why not? Okay. I think SBCC deserves a very student-forward leader, and I'd like to nominate Jonathan Abboud for Vice President.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Jonathan Abboud, and we have a nomination for Peter Haslam. Any other nominations? Okay, I'll ask to have the vote taken.
Student trustee Ibechi.
Trustee Abboud.
Trustee Nielsen.
Trustee Hasland.
Trustee Croninger.
Trustee Hasland.
Trustee Gallardo.
Trustee Haslam.
Trustee Parker.
Trustee Hasland.
Trustee Hasland.
Oh, let me think. No, I will vote for myself.
Trustee Abboud.
Trustee Hasland.
Trustee Miller.
Trustee Hasland.
Trustee Hasland.
Peter, you are very wrong. This board president position has an incredible amount of power. It does. Marcia silenced an LGBTQ student at the dais 2 years ago, and that's harmed the community here. Marcia blocked a resolution supporting undocumented students using the power of the presidency. Veronica silenced a black woman using the power of the presidency. I think you're wrong.
And if I'm not wrong, then I think the fault lies with us for not stopping them when they were making a mistake. And that's what we need to do.
Robert, I wish you don't follow in the footsteps of your predecessors.
Robert? Robert?
Yes, Marcia.
Just briefly. Jonathan, I disagree with your statements, but I don't think this is the time and place to discuss it, so I suggest we discuss it separately.
Right on.
Any other comments from the board? Trustee Nielsen.
Yeah, I'll repeat what Trustee Croninger just said, but I'd like to add this, that I've been sitting at this board and I know exactly what the previous presidents did. And how you reached the conclusion that they did what you accused them of is it's just like stretching the truth. It's like making it up to be what you want to be, and it's my turn to talk. I'm sorry. I listen to you, and I always have when you've had the floor. Sometimes it gets down to just having opinions that are so strong they half override the facts. I can't agree with that, and we have disagreed on some things, not too often, but this time it's my turn to disagree. And we can have a discussion later at a more appropriate time. Thank you.
So I believe we moved to public comments at this juncture, and I have a stack here. I will call. And I believe we're still following the 5 minutes, 5-minute rule.
It's up to you.
Yes, let's do that. First speaker slip I have is for Nicole Hubert.
You bring your own. You bring your own mackerel.
Dr. Beebe, members of the board, thank you for providing me this platform to speak to you and my colleagues today. My name is Nicole Hubert. I'm a manager at the college and the parent of a current SBCC student. I'm here to address the current climate at our college. I'm speaking because the silence is deafening, and by remaining silent, I am complicit in the continued growth of tensions that have divided our college community. The forced resignation of Lindsay Moss will further divide our campus without addressing the persistent racism and social inequities that our students and staff experience. I want this incident to be used as a catalyst for radical change. This work starts with us challenging our socialization to understand the means of systemic racism in our institutions and to better ourselves. Today, the campus climate is one of division and fear among our staff and managers. We have lost an ability to engage in discussions with respect and compassion. Instead, we have adopted a call-out culture where we are no longer seeking to understand one another, rather simply cast stones to make our own points. Individuals are afraid to speak for fear of retaliation, and I keep hearing that there are no safe spaces on campus. I feel at risk of retaliation for speaking here today. I don't understand how forcing Lindsay's resignation will further our work to remove racism and inequities from our college. I implore you, Dr. Beebe and Board of Trustees, to communicate how SBCC's institutional racism will be evaluated and present us with a solid, realistic, and achievable plan to dismantle it for good on our campus. And as these steps are employed, communicate the progress, including the changes, the challenges, the successes. Include us as partners in the process so we may fully participate and grow in solidarity. We need strong leadership to support us, to lead us, and to unify us. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Matt Lorden.
Good evening, Dr. Beebe and members of the board. I'm here to express my support for those affected by Lindsay Moss's use of the unabbreviated N-word in a gender equity meeting last month, and I'm also here to express my support for Lindsay Moss. I worked in the same office with Lindsay for over 2 years when she was controller. During that period, I had many interactions with her, and by proximity witnessed many of her interactions with a host of different people from all over campus who had many different racial backgrounds. I never once saw Lindsay say or do anything that could be considered racially insensitive or preferential towards any particular race or group. Lindsay was well liked by her staff, and in my opinion, she treated everyone with the same respect and fairness. She's extremely devoted to SBCC. She has integrity and a strong work ethic. Her exemplary work to help guide us through the budget deficit is merely one example of those qualities. I also believe the fact that Lindsay agreed to chair the Gender Equity Work Group shows she is committed to equity and to SBCC's vision. Many people were shocked and hurt by her use of this word, and understandably so. I do not in any way condone its use under any circumstances or the use of any other racially insensitive words, and I agree there should be consequences. Though I don't personally know anyone who is negatively affected, I want you all to know I respect you and I want you to feel safe here at SBCC. I support the Black Faculty and Staff Association and other coalitions, and I believe the action points that Dr. Beebe lists in his December 3rd email can bring about positive change. But with all due respect, I do not agree with the demand for resignation. It's too extreme given the context of what she said. I can't imagine any reason why Lindsay would go into a meeting with the idea that saying this word would be somehow beneficial. I have to believe this was inadvertently said, and I believe her actions after saying the word back that up. If Lindsay had planned to use this word, why did she cry shortly after saying it, and why was she immediately apologetic? To me, her actions show remorse, which I believe is consistent with that of someone who misspoke. We are all human. We are all human, and every one of us at some point in our lives has made the mistake of saying something in a way we did not intend for it to be said. What was said was wrong, but it wasn't done with malice or to disparage anyone. The sentence was an exclamation over the shock of learning that students are currently being called this horrible word on our campus, and it obviously came out wrong. I personally know of many staff who support Lindsay but are afraid to speak up for fear they'll be unfairly labeled as racist and will be targeted. This makes it appear as if Lindsay does not have as much support as she actually does. I share their fear, but feel it's important to stand up for those who you believe in and for fairness. I know I share the feelings of a great many SBCC staff who feel terrible for both the persons affected and for Lindsay. The continued calls for resignation have already lowered the morale of staff and do nothing to help race relations. In my opinion, if Lindsay is forced to leave SBCC, it will make the race situation on campus worse because it will scare away employees from taking part in similar committees and to retreat from the subject of race altogether for fear that if they attempt to engage in any type of racial dialogue, they are one unintentionally misspoken word away from having their career destroyed. When people become scared to discuss a topic and scared to speak out for what they feel is right, it not only creates a toxic environment, it makes it more difficult to create positive change. A forced resignation would cause irreparable damage to Lindsay's career and would directly impact her family. How is doing that kind of harm to someone justified by what was said? For a college community that prides itself on being progressive and compassionate, a forced resignation would be a regressive and reactionary response to a situation that could be better used as a learning experience for all. I feel the focus should be on healing, communication, and campus unity instead of continued attacks on Lindsay Moss and further divisiveness. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brittany Herrera.
Hello, President Beebe and Board of Trustees. Thank you for having me here today. I'm actually extremely anxious, so I apologize if I stutter. So I'm going to read something that I wrote here today. I'm here today because I'd like to address a couple of things that have been bothering me about everything that's going on after the November 14th situation. I want to start off by saying that, not that I was shocked that there's so much racism on this campus, but I was shocked by the lack of action that was taken to help our students when they were coming forward with their experiences. This is completely horrifying to think about the courage it must have taken for them to speak up about an issue of race and to have to report it to a white administration and have no action taken. That is completely heartbreaking. Situations like this where the administration needed to stand up and take a stand for our Black students, this is where this needs to be addressed. They needed to be shown that they weren't alone. And I'm hoping after this, after everything that our college is going through right now, we will start to grow and to stand by the right things. That being said, I do want to say that things are never just black and white. At the moment, I'm seeing so much division in this college when there should be unity instead. This is a time where everyone needs to come together and really demand change. But we can't do that when there's fear amongst our colleagues. I myself work directly with Lindsay. From my experience as a person of color, I have always felt seen and heard by her. But I'm only speaking for myself and my experience. Of course, I'm going to have some trouble with the first demand, and I completely support all of the other demands, but from my values and principles, I don't believe a person should be condemned for life for making a mistake only to serve as an example. And from all of the information we have been presented with, such as the email threads and what you hear, this is what it sounds like. I think as much as we're angry at this administration, we need to take a look at the individuals themselves. And again, this is only my opinion. I really believe that people should be allowed to ask questions, to have doubts, to question one demand, to question all three demands, because this is how we learn, and this is how we become educated and how we spread knowledge. And just because people don't understand or want to question something doesn't mean that they're against the cause. It just means that they're human. A couple of days ago, I sat with a friend that's part of the BSU and someone from the Black Faculty and Staff Association. I was terrified to ask questions before this because I felt like, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I don't word my question correctly? Will I receive backlash for this? Will I be labeled as one that does not support our Black faculty, staff, and students? But regardless, I went. And I cannot explain to you how much I appreciated both of them. They spoke to me in a safe place with no judgment, and we were able to have a conversation. We ended, and I was able to go home and make an informed opinion. Follow-up questions arose, and guess what? I contacted them and said, "Can we speak again?" I also met with Dr. Beebe. I voiced my opinions, I asked my questions, and I had a conversation. I'm trying my best to understand and to become informed, but I'm also trying to stand up for what I believe in. And I think that's a lot of us on this campus, or even all of us, regardless if we agree or not. I have been approached by colleagues that I had never met before because they feel the same way that I do. And what I'm hoping that will come out of this, of me standing up here and giving the unpopular opinion, is that I'll open or pave a way for conversation, that this will give people the courage to speak up, and not against our Black students, faculty, and staff, but to speak up if they have questions, if they want explanations, that this encourages them to seek answers on their own. And I'm hoping everyone else is willing to have a conversation and to start to come together, because our college needs to heal from all of this hurt, and we should start with the people that make this campus run. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carrie Hutchinson.
I don't know if they'll take it.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees. My name is Carrie Hutchinson. I'm a full-time faculty member in the Communication Department and a community organizer for racial justice. Today, I'd like to share some information from the American Council on Education's report about the racial crisis at the University of Missouri in 2015, from which I believe we can learn. This comprehensive report, which I encourage you to read in full, serves as a cautionary tale about what can be expected at our institution as we attempt to move forward from the disastrous climate in which we currently find ourselves. In the report, the team of researchers highlight several key takeaways, one of which is particularly relevant today as we prepare to go on winter break and return for a fresh semester in January. The report explains how, after some time passes, leaders often mistake a quieter campus for a sign that things are improving. You've probably noticed already that certain email threads, which I'm sure you're reading, have slowed or stopped altogether. Hallway conversations have shifted to new and different topics, and fewer people are lined up to speak during public comments. When these changes occur, which they will, you may feel a sense of relief, and that would be natural. But you would be wrong to mistake this quiet for healing or for resolution. Specifically, the report warns us of the following. Recognize silence. After a racial crisis, many leaders see a quiet campus as a sign of things calming down and moving back to, quote, normal. This, however, is rarely the case. The desire for campus leaders to move to silence is understandable after an extended period of intense emotion. However, quiet does not necessarily mean that the campus is back to normal. In fact, quiet most often means that problems are simmering just below the surface, which only invites setbacks. I would add to this that even if things were to go back to normal on our campus, which many perceived as normal, it is not acceptable. Our Black students, faculty, and staff have explained in great detail what a normal day at City College can be like for them. Thanks to their bravery and the risks and trauma that they endured by educating our campus, no one can continue to use the excuse that they didn't know. It's time to raise the bar on our campus for what constitutes as a normal day. The report continues by advising that leaders must be committed to ensuring a positive campus racial climate for all students, staff, and faculty long after the crisis has waned. So I came by the meeting today as a friendly reminder to each and every one of you to resist the comfort that you may feel as things appear to calm down on our campus, particularly after the break, and instead to double down on your commitment or renew your commitment, or for some of you, begin your commitment to transforming this institution into one that is safe, inclusive, and accountable to every member of its community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Melissa, and I can't read the last name. Menendez?
Menendez.
Hello. Hello, board members, Dr. Beebe. I was here to speak with you on November 19th, asking you to please listen to the requests that were being made on that day in relation to the November 14th incident. And today I'm here again just to kind of reiterate those requests. Ironically, the day after that November 14th meeting, we hosted our annual Durantes Lecture. And as you all know, the Durantes Lecture is a memorial series that is honoring a former student who was brutally stabbed due to a hate crime in 1990 because of his ethnic and national identity. And so this lecture series is really there for us to build awareness about some of these issues that are, unfortunately, 30 years later, still plaguing this campus community. And so this year we had the privilege of listening to Patrisse Cullors, and during the Q&A session, she was asked very specifically about how to respond to incidences of racism on a campus, and she had 3 recommends. One was that administration needed to be held accountable. The second was that there should be a zero tolerance policy. And a third was that anti-racist training should be required. And she had some other things that she said, but those were the 3 main giveaways. And so on November 19th, you heard a list of 3 requests by our Black Faculty and Staff Association, our Black Student Union, the SBCC Student Coalition for Justice, the SBCC Coalition for Justice. And then last week at the December 6th meeting, you heard a letter of solidarity signed by staff and faculty members who also agreed with those 3 requests. Another question Ms. Cullors was asked was about how do you build conversations about race? And I think that was asked pretty much in relation to some of the other speakers in terms of how do you have those conversations so that you can build unity, and so the same desires that have been expressed earlier. And Ms. Cullors' response to that was that the first thing, if you are going to have a unified community, is that the people of privilege need to own racism, and the second thing is that we need to bring people outside of the campus to start the dialogue. And that those were the 2 key things that she pointed out in terms of how to establish that unity. And so last week at the board meeting, we heard from an adjunct faculty member who spoke, who voiced some of what was said today already, but she also characterized those who were demanding these requests as, quote, the extreme left who silence the rest. And so I'm just bringing that out because I'm feeling that there is a little bit of a backlash, not just for those who feel they're being silenced because they support Lindsay, but there is a backlash on this campus happening to those people who are voicing what is going on and are really hurt by the situation. And I mean, I've been here for 12 years as a faculty member, and ever since I've entered the campus, speaking about any of these issues of institutional racism, because they do have a long history here, has never been approved by the majority. In fact, I've witnessed in many meetings where my colleagues, myself included, have often been labeled too focused on race or racist against whites or unfairly calling others racist because of wanting to have that conversation, or at least wanting to think about disaggregated data or how certain students are faring on this campus as a result to white privilege. And so that is kind of the normalized culture here. And so I think that if we're going to have this unity that everyone desires, we need to have those very hard and difficult conversations. And it might be divisive to some, but the division often arises because it's a questioning of what we've assumed to be normal. And what we want is a place where there really is compassion, so that somebody who looks like me can say what I want to say and not be silenced. So I think that part of, I mean, I'm shaking, and I don't know if you can tell, like Ruth, I'm really nervous because I don't usually speak in these kinds of forums. But I'm also nervous.
I'm sorry, your time's up, but if you could just conclude.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know that. Well, I just wanted to say that I'm basically, you know, I'm speaking and I'm doing this even though it's not my usual, because I'm tired of being silenced. And I think that maybe that's partly why some folks are feeling division, because those who have not said anything before are actually saying something.
Thank you. I guess I'm supposed to warn the speakers when 2 minutes is closing in. Next speaker is Dr. Rayanne Napoleon.
For you to start speaking. Oh. Okay. All right, cool. I started. Go ahead. Okay. Hey, hi. Dr. Rayanne Napoleon again, part of faculty. Each and every time I come up here, it's pretty contentious. I'm pretty confrontational, and yeah, I'm going to be confrontational again, unfortunately. You know, the last time I came before you, I was speaking specifically about a new BP that was developed, BP 3705 speakers, that was developed out of the Gender Equity Ad Hoc Committee work. And what I shared with you last time was that I was concerned about the protocols outlined in that BP. Marcia, you mentioned that in your discussion, and I remember Jonathan and you were going back and forth about this, you know, you were discussing this board policy and the procedures outlined within it as though they were suggestions for how faculty and how people on this campus and in this community are going to go about things. Uh-oh, Ruth's phone locked. My son has my phone, he's watching PJ Masks. The reason why I needed the picture was I was going to read to the board what a board policy is, which I know seems a little condescending, but you all last week, 2 weeks ago, sat up here discussing what a board policy is, and we're saying that it's just a suggestion, and that kind of just blows my mind that our board members don't realize that board policy is actually, yeah, there's a lock on it. It's all right. Whatever. I missed my moment. It's all good. Board policy is actually an administrative procedure that governs Santa Barbara City College. And the fact that you guys can sit up here talking about as if it was a suggestion, and Marcia, you're a lawyer. Robert, you're a lawyer. You know board policy isn't a suggestion. Aha, here we go, yay. Board policy are statements or guidelines which are adopted by the Board of Trustees to be used by the administration in the development and implementation of regulations and procedures for operating in the district. I mean, sorry, but were you guys being purposely misleading with those comments? I just don't understand how you don't know that board policy is in fact you know, procedures that are being outlined. And again, I'm just going to state the obvious, that if you're saying that a community member, whether it's faculty, staff, or otherwise, has to go to the president, superintendent, and or public safety with concerns, and they're not allowed to speak up on their own campus, that's going against the very nature of academic freedom. And I just don't even know how you guys went there, and after months of listening to Dr. Danielle Swantak and Ellen Carey and myself and other folks that were speaking up about this stuff, I just don't know how that's where you went. Let's silence faculty members so that they can't speak up about things that are happening on
you
their
have 2
own
minutes
campus.
left.
Cool, awesome, 2 minutes. The other thing I want to speak to tonight is, you know, you all just elected your new chairman of the board. Many of you were sworn in again tonight. It bothers me that you heard from community members and you saw the support given to Jonathan, and each and every one of you, almost each and every one of you went against that. Now, I can appreciate that you all have your certain biases and certain views of certain, you know, board members, and some of you have worked with each other for a while, and you might have certain reasons why you're doing certain things. But Ruth spoke about healing and working with faculty and moving forward. I'm not there yet. Trust me, I am not there yet. But other people are. And so it's clear to me that tonight, when you ignored those comments and the claps from the faculty members that are here that clapped in support of Jonathan, that you went with another choice with the chairman, it's obvious to me that the board's not ready to work with faculty or the actual voices of the people that work and live on this campus day in and day out. And so, sorry, I'm going to be Debbie Downer. I don't think we're going to move forward very quickly, and I think it's going to continue to be painful, and I think I'm going to come up here each and every week and point out truths. Ruth is not the only one that went back and forth about speaking tonight. I specifically said I wasn't going to speak, and then she texted me today and said, Ray, you need to speak. Each and every time you get up there, you speak truth. Unfortunately, your voice has been diminished. Lord knows that's the truth. My voice certainly has, and I've lost a lot of credibility on this campus with especially you board members. But I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to keep coming back, and I'm going to keep holding you guys accountable, and I'm going to keep being confrontational because I don't know what else to do. And I come to work each and every day, and I look at what happened with all this racism stuff and the sexism stuff and all of this stuff, and I'm just sick of it. And I'm going to keep trying to work really hard and hold you all accountable, like I already said. Thanks.
Next speaker is Ellen Carey.
So when I put in my slip to speak, I put it under the topic of leadership, and then wasn't given an opportunity to speak about the board leadership, which is what I wanted to speak on. Even when I raised my hand and said, you know, my slip was for that purpose. And so I just want to point that out as an example of how much power the president of this board has in determining who speaks and who doesn't speak. And in determining not just the technicalities, but also the sense of welcome. Who is welcomed to speak, whose voices are welcomed, and whose voices are marginalized in any number of ways. So what I wanted to say, which I'm adjusting a little, is that I noticed that last week several of you spoke about having things illuminated to you that had been invisible to you in the past. From listening to people speak here, from reading White Fragility, having your eyes open to the fact that, what do you know, racism still exists in this world. I find it hard to believe that had to be an awakening type of experience, that's not something that you were aware of already, especially at a Hispanic serving institution. But I also applaud it, because opening our minds as white people, opening our minds to the experience of people who don't have the privilege we have is really important. And we all need to do that and continue doing it. And I encourage you to continue doing it. At the same time, I was going to speak to the need for leaders to already be there. And that's why I, as an individual, wanted to support Jonathan Aboud's candidacy for board president, because he's already there. He already gets the experience of our students. He already gets the experience of the marginalized voices on this campus, faculty, staff, and students. And he is the only one on this board. I don't know you, Kate Parker, and welcome, but the only former, ongoing board member who really has gotten that. And Kenny, I don't really know you either, but also you're newer to the board as well. So I'm speaking to the longer standing board members. And so that's why I would have supported Jonathan's candidacy. But, and honestly, Trustee Miller, I think you should have declined the nomination. You spoke, you just acknowledged that you're inexperienced on this board and that you had not intended to lead it. Jonathan desired that leadership position and has the skills and experience to do it. So, so I think it's unfortunate. Having said that, I'm sure you'll see me here again, and I will continue speaking, as Ray said, coming up and speaking my truth, and saying what needs to be said. And I ask that going forward, you examine and maintain awareness of your limitations, Trustee Miller and all of you, particularly around the issue of race, and listen to those with deeper understanding of those issues, and be humble. This is going to be a learning process for everyone, and I just ask that all of you, like I did last week when I was here talking about white fragility and privilege, I ask that all of us as white people examine the ways that we are complicit in racism, that we are complicit in the systems that continue to silence students, faculty, staff of color on this campus and in the larger community. And I will add that some of that is the very systems like what do you fill out on a form for a public comment, and how does even the clarity of a form like that marginalize or silence or make it difficult for certain voices. I grew up with college-educated parents and went to a Seven Sisters school, and I didn't fill the form out right, apparently. So what does that say about other voices on this campus who, even when faced with a form to speak publicly, might fill it out wrong? Thank you.
Next speaker is Robin Goodnow.
Hi. I don't like to be here either. A lot of people have said that. I want to agree with what Ellen said, with what Ruth said earlier. This is an iceberg. I want to agree with what Jonathan said. I've watched every board meeting or attended every board meeting for the last year and a half, and I have to sadly agree with the comments that you made, Jonathan, about the behavior of some of our board members. This was a very disheartening beginning to the meeting tonight. I also supported Jonathan because Jonathan has revealed himself to get it over the past year. I want to go a little bit farther back than just recent events. I first came to SBCC as a student, and I had my first experience with sexual harassment by a faculty member here, not the last, unfortunately. I've been both an adjunct faculty member and now a full-time faculty member for over 20 years. It was no surprise to me that gender bias, sexual harassment, and misogyny are rampant at SBCC. I've been an ESL faculty member for over 20 years on this campus, so it was definitely no surprise to me that there's institutionalized racism, racial bias, and inequity on our campus. I'm actually much more puzzled when someone says that they're shocked and surprised to learn we have equity issues on this campus. And I have been surprised by the actions of our boards and leadership, our board and leadership in the last year. Last year, I watched as a campaign of harassment and misogynistic attacks began against 4 female colleagues on our campus. And I was shocked then. I was shocked by the response of the board, the college superintendent president, and our campus leadership. I watched the board meetings and thought surely at some point the board, our president, our administration, our faculty leadership would take action to support my colleagues. What I saw instead was familiar, and Melissa alluded to it. I saw eye-rolling, sighing, a sense that the victims of these attacks were the problem, or at least a part of it. So I joined the Equity Committee when it started. I was at the meeting that has been brought up so many times. I think it's really important to remember that the very committee that is now the focus of an investigation around racial inequity and bias on our campus was initiated to begin to address gender equity and bias on our campus. In fall, I started to attend board meetings rather than watch them on YouTube because I thought there needed to be visible witnesses here. I did this at the time because of the board's treatment, particularly Veronica, your treatment of Crystal Farmer, Dr. Rayanne Napoleon, Dr. Ellen Carey, Dr. Danielle Swantek, among others who came before the board to speak in support of them. Recent events have put us, I hope, firmly beyond the deniability point, although for many of us, we were there a long time ago. I look around my campus and I see the pain that has been caused in our leadership's inaction and missteps everywhere. I also see many of my colleagues and students seeking to begin to try moving forward positively. But we still have a lot of unfinished business to address first. Amends really need to be made for the wrong and harm done. The wrongs have to be acknowledged and apologized for, personally and meaningfully. The methodology for addressing these issues has been deeply flawed, to say the least. In response to revelations of inequity and pleased to respond appropriately, you have accused those who brought concerns before you of incivility. You've problematized them. You've equated their behavior and that of their attackers. You have trivialized their pain by equating them and others with tantruming toddlers.
You have 1 minute left.
You've silenced them and dismissed them, told them to get over it, stop talking about it, stop interrupting, and move on. You've asserted that isolated incidents don't mean there's a problem. In short, you became part of the attack and caused greater pain. I'm going to hurry. I've read and heard the apologies that have been issued by Dr. Beebe with regard to his responses to the racial incident that happened in the gender equity meeting. I'm still waiting to hear his and the board's acknowledgement that this issue didn't start this semester. In addition to the apologies and acknowledgements that must be made and that you're beginning to attempt, this board and Dr. Beebe, especially you, Trustee Gallardo, you owe Crystal Farmer a personal apology for the treatment she received here, an apology that truly acknowledges the wrong done to her. You owe Dr. Rayanne Napoleon, Dr. Ellen Carey, and Dr. Danielle Swantek a personal apology that acknowledges the wrongs done to them. Please avoid the urge to continue to sweep wrongdoing under the rug and pretend that it hasn't happened. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of damage has been done, and you have a lot of amends to make. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ethan Bertrand.
Slip in, but thank you for accepting my comment. I really appreciate it. So this is a really challenging time for the district. It's heartbreaking to hear so many of the comments and so much of what's going on, from racial equity issues to gender equity issues. And it's clear that there's a lot of division on the board right now. I originally was planning on coming here tonight to support Jonathan Abood, my trustee, for president. And I really wish that he was sitting in the president's seat tonight. But nonetheless, with how this outcome has arrived, I'm rooting for all of you. I'm rooting for your success, because your success is the district's success. The success of our leaders that we have here is really what will make sure that Santa Barbara City College continues to be the great school that it is. But with that in mind, there's an opportunity here to do the right thing. And the right thing is taking decisive action to stand with students of color and to stand with women on this campus, to stand with people who are most oppressed by what's going on here. There's a lot that's gone wrong over the past year. We all know that. Whatever side you're on, whatever you've done to address it, that's already happened, but going forward, there's a great opportunity to really make right. And I heard the comments about those who stand with Ms. Moss, and I'm sure she's a great person, I'm sure she's a great leader, but as someone who is a student of color here, as someone who remembers the pain of being called that word in school, growing up in an all-white town, and as someone who's learned more than I wanted to learn about hate speech in this town, I really implore you to take action. So thank you.
Okay, now we are going to take up, we're going to move to item 11.1, audit reports for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2018. Do we have a presenter?
So we have James. Are you going to present this, or you have the CPA firm? Okay. Okay.
All right. Good evening, President Beebe, members of the board. So this is the time of the year when we have finally finished our audit from last year, and it's all wrapped up with a pretty bow and gets brought to you guys. So tonight we have Ryan Milligan here from, what is it, Vavrnik, Trine, Day and Company, anyway, VTD, our audit firm. They've done the audit for us this year and for the last couple of years. So he's here to present the audit and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and Dr. Beebe. As James said, my name is Ryan Milligan. I'm a CPA and manager at the firm of Vavrnik, Trine and Day. We go by VTD for short. It is a mouthful. And I am here to present to you 3 audit reports that we did over the 17-18 fiscal year. 1 district report, 1 for Measure V, and 1 for the parking fees program. I have over 150 pages of reports here. I'm only going to go over a few highlight ones, so that way I'm not ruining anyone's night going over each one of these pages in extreme detail. So I'm going to start with the district financial report. And on page 3 of our report at the very top, we have our audit opinion over the financial statements, which is one of 3 opinions that we give in the audit report. And if I just read the first part of the sentence, it just says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to present fairly in all material aspects the respective financial position of the business type activities. That wording is what we consider an unmodified opinion. It is the highest level of assurance that an audit firm can give the district or really any entity regarding the financial statements being materially correct. On page 5, at the very first major section of the report, is what we call the management's discussion analysis. This is about a 10-page area of where management has provided commentary to a lot of the long, boring numbers that are make up the majority of this report. Gives it a little bit more context, a little bit more relevant factors to you as a board. If you read nothing else from this 120-page report, please read these 10 pages. I'm going to skip over into near the end of the footnotes. The one accounting change that not only SBCC had, but all community colleges, all K through 12 school districts had, is there was a change in accounting principle in regards to OPEB. These are post-employment benefits other than pensions. In the past, these were allowed to be amortized over a 30-year period. However, with this year, the whole entire liability was brought onto the books of the district, and that affected the district by about $3.6 million. May sound like a lot. I've seen districts smaller than SBCC have $203 million, that number. So districts obviously done a good job managing those costs and that liability. On page 72 of the report, it's something I believe I was asked to speak about last year, and it just is a history of the pension funding, and the obligation is broken out into STRS and PERS, and you can see for the most part, this liability has gone up every year. This is a liability that is actuarially determined. It's revised every single year. There are several factors that go into this, and unfortunately, it's one of these things that really the district does not have control over. The next page I would like to go over it's page 83, and this is a reconciliation between the district's funds to our audit report. The district, in I believe about the October board meeting, is presented with the CCFS, was it 311Q, that is submitted to the Chancellor's office. And this page is a reconciliation between our report and that report that was presented to the board at that meeting. I can show you it is a blank page. Blank pages from auditors are good things. We like this. There's a saying that auditors are negative people because we can only give negative assurance. We can't give positive assurance. So blank pages is how we do that. And then I come to, it's page 97 of the report, which is basically what we call the auditor's report card. And it gives the 3 financial opinions that we do give, or the 3 audit opinions we give, I'm sorry, financial statements, federal awards, state awards. All 3 opinions were unmodified and were no, what we call significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls over those 3 opinions. And then the very end of the page, of the report, I'm sorry, concludes with a bunch of blank pages indicating we had no, it said significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the control structure of the district. And that concludes for the district audit. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's an excellent audit report. And I'm coming from the K-12 environment where there's always findings, especially around ASB. And to look at this and see no findings whatsoever, thank you. But really a huge shout out to Fiscal Services.
Absolutely.
Because that is hard work and diligence. And I hope SBCC is really proud of that.
In our report, it's not also just fiscal services. We do work with student services, Triple SP, the equity programs, admissions and records, financial aid. We audit in several areas that are all incorporated here, and every single one, individual in every single one of those departments has been amazing to work with and has been very helpful in our audit.
Thank you for sharing.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Thank you for calling out the STRS and the PERS, because that is...
I remember last year.
Yeah, I know you did, so I wanted to say thank you for doing that. And then, and I kind of jumped ahead, and I know we have the budget timeline in the future, James, so I think that we'll probably see those projections again of those PERS and STRS in that same refresh spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good, because I know your report says in the future then we'll have the 10-year outlook.
Yes, eventually it'll be a rolling 10-year once we get to that point.
Okay, so that'll be good, because I think that document will work in tandem with this, and that'll just kind of help give us even a more high-level view of this. Thank you for doing that.
You're very
Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Okay, so the next report I have is the district's actually very last Measure V general obligation bond report, since those funds were completely expended as of June 30th. This report is kind of a 2-for-1. The first report we have is a financial report, which is an audit of just the financial statements for just the general obligation fund of the district. It's not going to have any debt in there. It's not going to have fixed assets, any pensions. It's not going to have none of that. It's going to be strictly balance sheet items, which in this case there was none because it was all expended, and revenue and expenses. Again, on page 3 of this report is that same exact paragraph where we have an unmodified opinion stating that the district's records of the general obligation fund was fairly stated in all material aspects. On the second part is the second report, which is the performance portion of our audit, and that's where we actually look at the expenditures in detail to make sure they conform with approved projects, the ballot language that was passed when Measure V was approved by the voters of the district. And on page 4 of that report, out of the $3.5 million that was spent, we've sampled 60%, which is extremely high for an audit of that, and found no questionable expenditures. Everything was spent within the guidelines outlined in Measure V. Any questions on those reports?
Any questions?
So you sampled 60%. What do you normally sample? I mean, something like that.
I would say for those, we try to do, even those are going to be higher than your district audit, but I would say the sweet spot is between 25 to 50 in there. With this being just the last one, I think we just wanted to go for a little extra credit on this one. We try to get a sample of higher dollar, lower dollars. I mean, the last thing we want to do is pick 3 big invoices and go, I picked 60%. So we try and get a mix of seeing how many purchases and transactions there were, get a sample of that, as well as get a dollar threshold. So we try and get it on 2 ends. So I know for this, yours, I believe we looked at least, gosh, James will know how many he pulled, probably 40, which again is pretty high for that specified of an audit, of that narrow of a scope.
So you have one more report?
Yes, one more. The smallest one I have is the district's parking fees program. And this one, once again, has that familiar unmodified audit opinion on its page 3 also. And this one, we are just making sure that the parking fee revenues and expenses as reported in the general fund of the district are fairly stated. The revenues and expenses that are reported in there do reflect activity with this program. And again, no adjustments, no modifications to our audit opinion. Any questions on this?
No questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Do I hear a motion to approve the audit report for fiscal year ending June 30, 2018?
Yes, you do, President Miller.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
I'm really impressed because we haven't had one this clean, and this is amazing. So I don't suppose there's a bonus program for the manager in the administration department that pulled this off, but there ought to be. This is just incredible.
It's very impressive.
Yes.
Very impressive. Any other discussion, comments?
I will only ask our auditor, where have you traveled from today?
Our office is in Rancho Cucamonga, but my house where I came from is in Laverne, so I got like a little 20-minute head start on the way out here. But I'm going to have a nasty
Yes,
fun
I think
drive
your
home.
family member is looking forward to the ride home.
Yes, that is my carpool buddy, actually. Help me navigate some of that traffic through the San Fernando Valley.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? The motion passes. I think we now go to item 5.1, report from Patricia Stark from the Academic Senate, but I believe Patricia is out ill today, so we won't have a report. And I believe Josh...
Well, Kenny was going to read Josh's.
yes, I'm just getting that, right.
Okay, sorry.
Just for the record, you're providing the report for the associated students.
Yes, on behalf of Josh, who has a final right now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good day, Dr. Beebe, Board of Trustees. I'm here to present the report of the Associated Student Government on behalf of Josh, who has a final right now. So here's his report. Currently, we have 64 active clubs on campus today. During our 4-week application search for student trustees, no applications were turned in. In response to this, the ASG has extended Kenny Beach's term until a new student trustee is appointed and trained. We are concentrating on the bill cycle event, and we are concentrating on bill cycle event, informing students on student-related bills that were proposed. We have signed onto a letter supporting MTD to go all electric, and the Santa Barbara Metro Transit District voted to switch 100% electric buses by 2030. ASG has now supplied table toppers in the cafeteria, informing students about food waste, plastic usage, and other sustainable facts. we now have an international student affairs position. We also had our monthly Lunch with Your Representative event, which had over 26 students in attendance. On the event of November 14th, the ASG unanimously voted to recommend the immediate resignation of VP Lindsay Mass for her use of a racial slur that goes against the mission and vision of SBCC. We also voted on meaningful ongoing and in-person anti-racism training determined by the Equity and the Black Student Faculty and Staff Association for all members of the SBC Board of Trustees, President Cabinet, deans, managers, committee leaders, work group leaders, and all other full and part-time members of SBCC's faculty and staff. We also voted on recommending the establishment of an independent council or entity which will have the responsibility of reviewing harassment claims and determine the appropriate responses. For finals week, we allocated $5,000 to support students with snacks, scantrons for all students in the library. Moving forward in the spring semester, we are going to have a music event in the spring semester to help create a friendship culture and love on our campus. Events are put and funded next semester as a club missa and a movie night. We'll be opening up ASG positions the first day of spring semester in hopes of finding more support on the ASG board. Thank you. If you have any questions, I could take them.
Thank you, Trustee Becky.
Thank you.
And I understand that we do not have a report tonight from classified employees. Is that right, Liz? Next, a report from Superintendent President Beebe.
So as Trustee Ingbechi pointed out, we're in finals week this week. And of course, it's an extremely stressful time for students. One of the things that our faculty and staff have always recognized is the stress that the students have been under, and they do some amazing things to help reduce that stress. Everything from pancake breakfast to dog petting and dog walking and de-stressors of different kinds, classroom meditations. And then I think you've probably seen some of the banners that we have out where it talks about, quote unquote, you've got this, right? And encouraging students. And it's really great that they support the students the way that they do. So best of luck to all the students out there for their finals, and a job well done with the faculty. I do want to talk a little bit about racism and some of the things that have been mentioned here tonight. I think it's really important. As Ethan pointed out, it is an opportunity for us. It's a real opportunity, and as Dr. Carrie Hutchinson pointed out, you know, we don't want this to go silent. We don't want this to be an item that just goes away. I'd like to look at this as a new normal for us to be talking about racism. We have spent considerable time on campus discussing individual racism, institutional racism, societal racism, and so on campus, and this is all, I think, important and good work for us. These are difficult conversations. They're very difficult conversations, but if we believe in equity and diversity, as we all profess to, that's written in our mission statement. It's right over your shoulder there. We need to have these discussions to make the college better and more welcoming for all students. It's going to be some tough work, and we have to continue forth with that. I wanted to give a few updates. Dr. Mona Lisa Hassan has been collaborating and doing some good work with several representatives from the EEO committee, the LEARN committee, and others, and she's having some ongoing dialogues in coordination with the Black Faculty and Staff Association and other coalition groups to identify and evaluate some meaningful training related to all of this. Some other discussions have been taking place as well that relate to restorative work. And this is separate and apart in some ways, but it also is integrated, and it's a foundation for a lot of the racial discussions that we're talking about. But this restorative work really builds trust, it builds relationships, and it expands capacity of the institution to be able to have the conversations necessary to really make some headway on some of the things that have been discussed here tonight with the public comments. Wherever we can, we're also moving forward with training opportunities right now. We, for example, last Tuesday had an all-managers initial discussion about campus climate, some of the problems that we have on campus related to this, the racial aspects, the diversity. That training was well received and much appreciated. But that's just a taste. I mean, that's just the beginning of all of this. This is really a tremendous opportunity that must be very thoughtful in how we approach it. And as Akil Hill said at a couple of board meetings ago, we must get this one right. We have to do a good job with this. We don't want to alienate people in the training. We want to be as inclusive as we possibly can. So this is a great opportunity to be able to move the college forward and do it together. We have also identified some areas, structural changes that need to be made. And we're going to be improving our reporting and responsiveness to incidents of discrimination and actually all kinds of complaints using, we need to have a better name for this, but a universal complaint form, if you will, some kind of a form that makes it very simple for people to be able to file complaints and have that date stamped. It goes to one individual that we know is going to be responsible for it and be able to move forward with that. There's lots of models out there that will help us with this kind of work, but also we're going to be spending some time actually visiting some colleges and universities and seeing how those models work and how they might be adoptable to what we're doing here. We've got, somebody mentioned the independent investigations. We have actually a couple investigations that are ongoing. One relates to what transpired on November 14th in the gender equity meeting, but we have some other investigations taking place related to the library and other incidents that have we've recently learned about. And those investigations, we're going to be able to file some kind of a report so that so the campus will know where we are with that. We've also been involved with some facilitated discussions, and recently at our College Planning Council meeting, we had Professor Rhonda McGee, who is an expert facilitator and an expert on institutional racism and racism in different areas, and she came and was introduced at CPC and gave us some nice tips about some ways to think about things. And the outcome of all of this was we're going to have a CPC retreat facilitated by Professor McGee. And so we're looking forward to that. That'll take place January 9th. So we're excited about that. So overall, I just want to repeat that the idea of this going away and becoming silence and us going back to the way things were, I can't see that ever happening here. This institution has been touched in a way that I don't believe we'll ever let that happen. And I don't think that we should let that happen as well. So this is a new normal for us to be able to understand the problems that we have, to be able to move forward and figure out ways to mitigate it. I just want to say one last thing, and that is that Dr. McGee talked about this being a career-long, lifelong effort for us. And I believe that's absolutely true, and we all need to be able to adopt that idea that we're in it for the long haul. That's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Beebe. I think everybody appreciates those comments, and I'm pleased to hear that we are moving forward on a number of different fronts, and we have a lot of work to do. We recognize that. I think everybody on the board recognizes that, and we look forward to working with you in the coming weeks, months, and years to to address this very, very important issue. So thank you. Yes.
So could you talk more specifically on the progress for the trainings, and then specifically what trainings could be for the board? Because I think it's, we can't do any actual groundwork on ourselves because we're not staff, but how is the board going to be involved in the anti-racism training? Because so many people have asked us to, and we haven't done anything. I asked for it to be an agenda item, didn't go on the agenda, so I want to know what's going to happen next.
Well, there's a couple fronts with that, and maybe Dr. Hassan might want to talk about this a little bit too, but we know that, and I know that you know, that we have the California League for, the League for Community Colleges, and they have several programs and classes that could be offered in this realm. So that's one avenue. Another avenue is, I believe, to join in with some of the training that we're going to be offering that has been researched, and some of the things that Dr. Hassan's been working on with some of the coalitions and associations. Mona, did you want to speak a little bit about that? I know we're specifics because we're still in the process of understanding particular organizations that offer this kind of thing, and so we're trying to be mindful of that.
Is the plan to include the board in the general training that the rest of the campus undergoes, or do we have our own training just as a board? Like, is it invite the board members to come if you can make it, or is it a scheduled board retreat where there's a training for the whole day?
Well, that would be your decision.
Right.
That would be your decision.
That's, I asked for it to be on the agenda so we can make that decision.
Then I don't really have much to add to that. We're really taking baby steps with the training to make sure that we're listening to all the stakeholders. So we're moving very slowly with this work to ensure that all the voices are heard. And we're looking forward to having our first meeting next week. And we're going to decide after listening to what are the action steps and what's going to be meaningful and intentional and productive for our institution. And so we will keep you posted on that progress.
I just hope that we go for a very credible anti-racism organization, because I don't think the Community College League is necessarily the well-known organization for anti-racism in California. So
well, they
let's look into one that's like well respected in the anti-racism community, not just community college community.
Actually, just to comment on that, the California League doesn't actually provide any training on this, but what they do facilitate are organizations to come in and be able to provide the training. So yeah, they don't provide the training, but they have organizations that come in and put on the workshops.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Parker.
Since Trustee Aboud brought the idea up of talking about anti-racism training for the board, I'll be the second trustee that will request that that be on an agenda in the near future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. We would now go to item 6.3, which is establishment of our meeting date, organizational meeting date for 2019. And there's a recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the meeting date, which is, again, December 12, 2019. Do I hear a motion to adopt that date? Sure. Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
Trustee Miller, you guys, did we appoint a liaison to the foundation board and to the...
That's in like 3 agenda items.
Later, okay. I was like, did we...
Item
miss
6.5.
It's later in the agenda.
Got it, okay. I was like, well, for some reason I was like thinking we had done that all at once already. Yeah,
No.
good.
It's coming.
It's coming, yes.
Appointment, yes. Thank you.
6.5 is recommended the Board of Trustees elect a representative and an alternate to the County Committee on School District.
Can we go back one?
Sure.
6.4. You're establishing the meeting dates?
Thank you. 6.4 identifies all of the proposed meeting dates for 2019, which I believe still follows the normal pattern of the second and fourth Thursday at 4 o'clock. Do I hear a motion to adopt the schedule as outlined in item 6.4?
So moved.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? None. Okay. Now, 6.5 is the appointment of the representative and alternate to the County Committee on School District Organization. I guess this is where I ask if there are any volunteers. Trustee Nielsen.
Yeah, I just started doing this about the time you came onto the board, because that's when we needed someone to do that. And there will be, in the coming months, work to be done. There hasn't been much yet to interface about, but there's issues coming up. So I'd be happy to continue that. I just barely learned where the meeting places are and met some of the people. So if you'd like me to continue, I'll be happy to. If someone else really wants to do it, it's fine by me.
Thank you for volunteering and your willingness to continue. Is there anybody else who is also interested in the position? I think
For this one, I support Trustee Nielsen. I mean, Marty, I think all of us that have done it, you kind of just hang out until something happens. And if something's about to happen, please go after it, Craig.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion that Trustee Nielsen will be our representative to the County Committee on School District Organization?
So moved.
A second?
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is the appointment of a representative to the foundation.
I'd like to continue. I only got to go to a couple meetings because conflicted with work, but the meetings are now not in conflict with work, so I want to go more.
And Trustee Aboud, thank you for volunteering to continue in that position. Is there anybody else who is interested in the position? If not, I would hear a motion to approve trust. Thank you. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
And just, can I ask for a point of order on the previous item, 6.5? It does call for an alternate. Does that need a vote as well on the alternate? I know that they're very fussy when it comes to the county committee.
Do we have a volunteer?
Yeah, we did not have.
Who was the alternate last year? Was it
For a while,
Marty or was it Peter?
It's Dr. Haslam.
It was Dr. Haslam, yeah.
Was I the alternate? Oh, I would be delirious with joy to.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Hasland. All those in favor?
You need a second
Aye.
on that?
Wait, you need a
Second, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 6.7, revision to board policies, Chapter 7, Human Resources, and I believe this is the second reading for this.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to adopt the revisions to BP 7250, academic employees and educational administrators?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So I believe the next is the consent agenda, and ask if anybody would like any item removed from the consent agenda, which I believe goes from 8.1 to 10.4. Any request to remove any items? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda? Trustee Nielsen, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Next item is 11.2, Prop 30 EPA expenditure report for 2018-19. Is there a presenter for this, or?
James, do you want to talk to this one? James can talk a little bit to this.
All right, so this item, it's an item that comes up about once a year where we both look backwards at what we did spend last year's Education Protection Act, or EPA, money on, and then what we plan to use it on going forward. It's something that part of the statute requires that would come to the board and be approved. In both cases, we have always, since this act has passed, used this money to fund our adjuncts pool. It's largely out of ease. It's one of the biggest pools that happens to almost meet that money. So for record-keeping purposes, it's really easy for us to just say we use our adjunct money. We use this money to pay for adjuncts. So that's what both of these are. One, it shows that last year we spent, I believe, a little over $9 million on, that's the amount of money we received in this, and then we turned around and spent it on adjuncts. And next year, we're slated to receive $11 million, but that, changes in February.
Any questions? Trustee Parker.
I don't know if you can answer this. It's just an abstract question. Is there a point when this switches from Proposition 30 to Proposition 55?
That's a good question. It essentially, I think it has switched to Prop 55. I don't know. That's probably something we should clarify in our language. But
yeah, that's just a question mark for the future.
Yeah, because it did, Prop 30 did sunset, but Prop 55 extended the income tax portion for, I believe, through 2030.
What is Prop 55?
That's what he was saying, that as it sunsetted, it was a vote of the people that under Proposition 55 that continued on a portion of it.
Yeah, so Proposition 30 was passed as we were running into, I believe it was in 2012. Thank you, Jonathan. Sorry, I started here in 2013. I knew it had just hit right then. But it passed in 2012, and it contained both an income tax portion on higher earning individuals as well as a sales tax portion. The sales tax portion sunsetted and was not re-upped, but I believe it's Proposition 55 did re-up the income tax portion through 2030.
Yep.
And that does equal somewhere in, it's generally around $10 million. The income tax, or the sales tax portion, had been about $2 million, so that is phased out. Ultimately, all of this is part of our total computational revenue. So if the money from this act goes down, then our apportionment goes up, and property taxes and enrollment fees are all kind of commingled in all of that. So that's all part of the big funding formula with the state.
Thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Haslam.
There's nothing in the law that says that these funds must be expended in any particular way, is there?
There is something in the law that says that it can't be expended on administrative salaries.
Oh, yeah, right.
It does have to go towards instructional activities, and that's why I said it's because adjunct instructors, it's an easy mix for us to just move that money into that area. We do have to account for it separately. Right. So just from an ease of use, that's kind of what we've done, rather than try and parse it out over a bunch of other different instructional areas. We're not alone in that. I think a lot of community colleges are doing almost the exact same thing.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the use of $11,231,695 of education protection account proceeds resulting from the passage of Proposition 30 to be accounted for as instructional salaries and benefits as presented?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay. Next item, 11.3, a business services action item.
I'll move to accept 11.3 and 11.4 at the same time.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
It's a roll call.
Okay.
Student trustee Igbechi?
Aye.
Trustee Croninger?
Aye.
Trustee Parker?
Aye.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Abud?
Aye.
Trustee Gallardo?
Aye.
Trustee Nielsen?
Aye.
Trustee Hasland?
Aye.
Next item, 12.1, budget timeline, which sets out in detail the deadlines for adoption of our budget next year. And give me a moment. This is not an action item, but an informational item. Is there any discussion about that?
Yeah, I've requested this, I think almost every year I've been on the board, but I feel like it would be really helpful if there was more public participation in our budget process, especially on the earlier end. And I would really appreciate if we as a board, I mean, it's been great the level of detail that's changed since 2016 to now, night and day. I had no idea what the budget was in 2015. Now I think I understand it very well because of everything that's happened. But I think we need to be more detailed, because just getting like 5 line items and being told like salaries this much, benefits this much, is not the level of detail that's, you know, the fiduciary responsibility we're supposed to have. So I'd just like to ask if maybe at the beginning of January we can get a very detailed budget, just so that when we're going into approving the higher level line items, we just know what we're actually approving, just to know more, because, you know, we are voted in to approve this budget. It's one of our main jobs.
Okay. Other comments?
What exactly do you want, Jonathan?
Well, from what I've seen at other, you know, districts, they get a very detailed version of the budget when the budget process begins. I mean,
Hold on, whose budget process?
other districts.
But I guess I want to understand what you're requesting, because I'm not clear. But, so who gets a
So when we get the budget, especially the general fund budget, it says academic salaries, staff, benefits, you know,
Yeah.
very general. And it's a small packet what we received, like, you know,
How
10.
detailed would you want it? I mean, I tend to agree with you. I think we should have a greater, but I'm also concerned about.
I don't think we should get to be like math department this much money. I think that's maybe a little too detailed, but I think just delving in more, like how much is spent on full-time faculty, how much is spent on part-time faculty, how much is spent on adjunct faculty, how much is spent on, you know, I can keep going on, but maybe I can find some like examples and share them.
We have an example from the facilities committee, not facilities, from the fiscal committee, and we actually got it down, gosh, to the number by the number of students that were served, how much that department cost to operate. And I think what I've heard from Lindsay and the team, I think in study sessions will go as deep as we want. So, I mean, I think that that's very, I guess but do you want all that embedded in that big budget? Because it's not a 5-page document.
I know. It's
meaty, yeah.
And I think just like give it to us, maybe give us the previous fiscal years in January, just so we can start looking at what the budget looks like at that detailed level. I mean, you know, fiscal committee hasn't existed in 2 years. So that level of detail hasn't been looked at by the board, I guess, in 2 years now.
I guess let's just talk about the level of detail we want, because I remember we requested this too for facilities, and we all got like detail. I mean, like Lindsay and the team just opened up everything, and then we were like, oh, this is too much. I don't think it's what we wanted. So, but I agree. I think we all agree. So, but it has to be something that makes sense at our level to get, because I know what we got for facilities. I don't know how many of you read it. Yeah, it was a lot.
I don't know if I was here when.
No, it was
just
like, it was like a couple months ago.
Is it the one from the summer? I mean,
it was.
Yeah, no, I read that because
All of the attachments?
maybe
There's
not
like
every
thousands
single page,
of pages.
but
Okay.
I read to the level that I wanted to,
Yeah.
not the level that I was given.
Yeah.
I was given everything, and I said, okay, I'll go 60% in.
Yeah.
And I think when it's given to us, then it becomes available to the public, and then anybody who lives in our district who pays into the institution can then have an opportunity. I've met some people during the campaign who were asking such detailed question about the budget that I was like, I have no idea. That's never been presented to us. So maybe just making that available would be nice as an effort of transparency. So
I
if
hear
we
you,
can get
Jonathan.
the fiscal level of detail to the board level, that'd be really cool, especially since that committee hasn't existed for 2 years. So that means no one has looked at it, at this board who votes on this in 2 years.
Well, we have been able to ask questions for details, and I did a few times, and got them very swiftly. So it's been available to us if we asked for it. At least that's been my experience, and I didn't hear anybody else. Except, I do agree with you that it'd be nice, but I think we need to be careful what we ask for, because I don't want to sift through a 1,000-page report. You know, but I do want the information. So we should spend a little time being very specific about what we ask for on a long-term basis.
Yeah, and I would,
Go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to add, I think we should be cautious about what it is we do with that information. What I think our college does a really good job of is building the budget through the participatory governance process, and it's not for us to come swooping in and start fiddling with the numbers. What we did, and I think you're referring to this, Veronica, is at one point we talked about cost of different academic programs, different departments. That's a different view. That's not something that is ordinarily in the budget. It is basically a question of what's the cost of our different widgets that we are producing. And I think it gave us insight into our programs and efficiency issues and all of that. But it's not going to come with the budget. And to me, some of those are the more important high-level questions that we might want to understand.
Well, it was like nursing. Nursing is so expensive for us, but we're not going to not run the nursing department. And so I think that was sort of
But
what
it's
we were
good to
trying
know
to get
how
at.
much it costs. Like I would,
Yeah,
I
we
would
found out.
benefit from knowing that, you know? Like I might not say, let's cut the nursing program. I would never say that. Like I don't think there would be support on the board to do that. But it's good to understand that because we are the ones who have to vote on it. And so if anyone then turns around and asks, you know, why did you do that? You're going to have to be able to answer that question one day. And so I just think as a measure of transparency, we could just get the folder, the binder, and be like, cool, I'll put it in the shelf and never see it again. Or you could go and comb through it at your leisure and, you know, take a week every time and go through it. I don't know, it's up to you. You're a board member, I can't tell you what to do. But I think the level of information should be given at the higher level, and then up to you to what you do with it. But we're all expected to know what's usually presented, that's been presented the past 2 years.
Trustee Kronger?
Yeah, what I was just going to say is that having a line item, which is what the budget looks like for the costs of, say, the nursing program, doesn't tell us what it means on a per-student cost. It doesn't tell us what part of the academic program, for example, it may use for that number of students. If you're trying to get at some of those questions, I think those are, and I 100% support the nursing program. I'd like to see it even larger, but it is just being used here as an example to understand that the budget, I think, and James, correct me if I'm wrong, will not tell you other than here's the line item. So the next question to me is the more important one.
Okay. James, you had something to...
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's actually something that's fairly easy for us to do.
Great.
We actually do build the budget in excruciating detail, you know, down to each line of benefits for each individual employee. So it's very easy for us to just roll it up at whatever level you guys are comfortable with. I think we can come up with some categories, like you said, full-time employees versus part-time employees, you know, faculty and staff, et cetera. Just kind of break those down into maybe some more meaningful numbers. I think that would be something that's relatively easy for us to do.
That would be really appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Veronica, the report you were referring to, that was a cost of FPES report. That was something that was kind of a special report, but we can definitely do that again if that's something the board is interested in looking at.
No, you guys are on fire, amazing. And I guess my point was that this requires so much time on this amazing staff that what you guys did was amazing, and I would not request anything unless it was in a timely manner or whatever. But no, I think what you guys have done in the last 6 years is hands down amazing.
No, we're happy to work with whatever it is that you're looking for. We want to make sure that the budget that you're seeing is a budget you're comfortable with. I think we've tried to go that direction over the last few years and make sure that everyone's aware of what's in the budget and try and increase transparency. So if there's something you're not getting, please, I'm happy to work with that.
Thanks again. Thank you very much.
Good.
Trustee Parker?
Yes, quick question. In the budget development timeline that I see, I don't see a time listed for board review and board adoption. Is that already decided for 1920?
So the tentative budget does need to be approved, and sorry, I'm trying to scroll through it real quick here, by June 30th. So that's our tentative budget. And
so that's, okay, so I was just looking, I wasn't looking far enough down on the page. So
yeah.
It's April 11th is when we're going to see it the first time? Is that correct?
Let's see here. The board is green, if that helps.
The board is.
There's also
other
PC.
green,
Sorry,
other
I'll clean up some of the colors on that.
Okay.
So yeah, you begin seeing it around April 11th, and that's largely because it does take us a long time to just get the ball rolling. We find out mid-January from the governor's office what their initial proposals are, and that really kicks off our budgeting. We normally start with our revenues, and then at the same time, we have all of our governance groups working through all of the expenditures while we're working on the revenues, and then we start pulling that together. The budget committee in early April starts looking at each individual department's budget in detail and going through that. We don't go to a pure zero-based budgeting model, but we do come very close to that, where we are, we look at the prior year budget as a guideline and then ask everybody to fill out the new budget fresh. Okay. Just to ensure that we're not just rolling over things that we don't want to roll over. So it's normally around early April, you'll start seeing things like the revenue pieces. We do piece it out a little bit at the beginning. And then I believe somewhere in May, you'll start seeing a little bit of the full budget. And then in June, you'll see the full budget twice for approval of the tentative budget.
So it looks like our window is really April to September.
Pretty much. And then over the summer, once we get the May revise, normally the May revise is not built into the tentative budget because it comes so late in the game. We really don't have time to completely react to that. Again, it depends on what's in the May revise. If it's a fairly simple changes, we'll try and get that in. But if it's like last year, there's just no way when there's so many changes for us to dump that all in a week. And then run it through all of our governance processes.
Thank you.
And the college also they do community. You can come to those too, or anytime they're out on other campuses. And so that's a great way to, because I know I've come to them just on my own, because I'm like, let me hear this 3 times before it comes to me. So anyway, these guys are great. You're going to.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Just one last one. I know in terms of like what I was requesting in terms of what we see, just one thing I'm really interested in seeing is the breakdown between the tuition revenue that we get and then the breakdown with the property tax revenue we get, because our budget just is not clear. It says local and state, and local means I think both tuition and property taxes, and I don't know if we want to combine those because they're very different revenue. And maybe I'm wrong, but it's just not clear in the document we get what tuition money comes in, what out-of-state student money comes in, and what property tax money comes in. Because someone asked me, like, how much property taxes does SBCC get? And I had to dig and find an auditor controllers report from 2013 that was buried on the county website, and it was breaking down what each local institution got from the property tax increment. So I think it would be really good to have that, like, more detailed breakdown of our revenue.
I had that same confusion. I've been through the process once, and I had that same confusion.
We can definitely clear that up.
Yeah, no, we can definitely, like I said, that's all of the details there. So, you know, we can come up with a version that I think, you know, will answer your questions.
Cool, thank you.
I would just add that I think that the place to look for that data is in the Chancellor's Office database under the financial services. It's readily available for every college in the 114 colleges, and how our funding is divvied up and what portion of it is property tax or tuition and their assumptions. Obviously, reality takes place over the year, but probably matches up initially with what you're projecting.
And if anyone needs a refresher, sorry,
No,
Trustee Nielsen.
I just want to thank you, because I knew I'd seen those numbers, and I find them routinely, and I was going, wait a minute, I see those numbers. And that's where I've been seeing them. Thank you.
And the study session that Mario gave us,
Right.
that one's a good refresher. So if you could go back and listen to that tape, he really goes through every single thing in great detail, step by step of the revenue and all of that stuff. So it's a good refresher.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Who would
Point
want
of
to
order,
leave? Come on,
point of
guys.
order. Did we skip item 11.5?
We don't have any 11.5.
11.5.
11.4?
Oh, sorry,
We
11.4,
did them
resolution number
together.
5, adjustments.
was-
to-
that
Oh,
was
okay, that was
combined with
together. Okay, now I get it.
11.3.
Thank you.
We did them both.
Because they're both roll calls, so it's just easier
Gotcha.
to do them together.
Our new trustee is paying attention to the details. Thank you.
Not always
I like
catching
it.
them.
But we did skip item 13, items for future board consideration. And in light of everything that has happened, it seems to me that we might benefit from a regular report from the superintendent president about progress being made in this respect, with respect to the two issues that are frequently raised, having to do with gender equity and racism. Just a short update. We've accomplished these things. We've discovered these things. My hope is that we will be taken seriously, that we are dedicated to this process, and that perhaps a regular report of progress might facilitate that understanding.
If it pleases the board, I'd be glad to do it.
Yeah, good idea. Trustee Parker?
And just a question about the way the board works on items for future board consideration. Does the board president keep a running list in conjunction with Dr. Beebe? Okay.
And I did note that we had two trustees that want to have the anti-racism training put on the agenda for next time. So noted with that. That's what it takes is two trustees, so we've got that.
Yeah.
Trustee Croninger?
Item 15.1 is usually where that running list is, of things that have been planned but we haven't done yet. So was developed for that purpose.
I see. So is that an assumption then, that every, because I'm used to it sometimes taking more time for things to come on to a board meeting agenda, so it's great. If you make a request, will it always be on the next agenda item, on the next agenda?
No, that's a to be scheduled. It doesn't necessarily mean the next agenda item. Then it has to get worked out between Dr. Beebe and the board president, how quickly you can get it on there.
Okay, so that will go in at the next agenda. We will see those two additions on the to be scheduled
like they'll
list in 15.1.
Well, because they're moving slow, he said, with Mona's report too. They're kind of identifying.
So it could also be just on the next agenda.
It could be.
Okay.
It could be. I mean, I'm not sure if we'll be ready for that, but we'll certainly try.
Okay, thank you.
2019.
Could we get an update on the housing survey at some point? I know probably not the next agenda, but maybe one of the earlier ones of 2019?
I would like to request if we can not add any more. I am mindful of the load here, and there's a lot, so I would ask to hold on that because I think that that's important, and we want to make sure that these things get done, not just brought to us because we said we wanted them, but that it's the scope of the work gets done.
Yeah, I wasn't asking for the survey to be done and brought to us. I was asking if there could be an item, like an update. Maybe we can provide direction on the questions asked in the survey. I don't know. Just having that, because we took action. The board made a decision, so maybe we should follow up a little bit and keep keep updated on what's going on with that decision.
I would suggest we wait on that. I think there's a lot, and I don't know if other trustees would say just wait and.
My concern is that we not overload our administration and all at once with a lot going on. I mean, we do really have a focus right now on certain key issues, and if we take on too much at once, we don't do anything well.
We just
asking for an update on a board decision. Thanks.
Can I comment on that? Yes. We actually have been working, I've been talking with Jeff Green about that survey, so I mean, I could give you an update. It is something that I've been working on, the traffic flow as well. I mean, both those topics are things that you directed me to do last time, and I've been working on it.
See, thank you. Very easy.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.